Nubook 1, From Then to Now, Part 19. At that moment, Paul came into the room and sat down. Goldie was telling me about his meeting the Diabolo last night, said Mary to Paul as he was gulping down his beans. Paul began to laugh, and then said, "Ah, yes, the great trickster. He had us fooled for many years with worshipping the personalities and doctrines of the past, and the gods that most people think are real. Mary and I were very sincere seekers of what was really true. We would discuss all the flaws in the doctrines we were studying, and ask questions of the priests and those that belonged to the different faiths. They didn't like us questioning what they had worked hard to convince others with, blind faith. It wasn't long before we were looked upon as worshippers of the dark side, because we were questioning all the things that didn't make sense in the written scriptures. We were not being disrespectful. We simply wanted to know more. We wanted to know the real truth, and no one was willing to tell us. We soon found out why, because they didn't know. Until we met Rebazar Tars, we didn't know anything about the real journeys that are possible. All of us here now know that it takes real experience to realize real truth, and not just something written to believe in because they say so. Our friends and those who are attending the church have decided to restrict themselves to what they read, and then are told what their God is like, according to the personalities of the past, and what is decided for them by those in authoritative control. We respect the beliefs of others and what they want in their lives, but we have the right to decide for ourselves. Our friends want to all think alike, and they are good people, but they are the ones that will inherit the earth. They are only reading about certain areas as a reference to a form of truth, and have not learned about the real universes beyond their mental conceptions of their heavens. After a while, Mary and I realized that no one we knew had the answers to what we wanted. It wasn't too long after that we both began to have real experiences in our dream visions, after meeting with your parents. It took us a little time to get used to having these new experiences, but we finally gave in and accepted them. You must realize that we had no one here to talk to. Your parents gave us the ideas to start with, but we had to figure out what things meant. We tried to tell our friends we thought we knew real well, but as soon as we started mentioning our dreams, they began to turn the other way when we would see them. After years of training with Rebazar Tars and his friends, Mary and I decided to just live our life and let everyone else be, said Paul as he was eating his beans. I sat silently, and just enjoyed being with these two. I was getting a real educational course. You are the new one, Goldie. We already saw you in the other worlds while you were still young. We knew you would be coming and doing what you will to present to the world what you know. You will take what we are sharing and expand upon it, said Paul. But you two seem to know so much more than me, I said. It's not only the knowledge we are sharing, Goldie. It's really how you have come to be with all of life. You will get all the knowledge you need from so many sources, but the main idea is who you are and what you are capable of. There is something coming in your future that staggers the imagination. The true reality, what Rebazar refers to as the staff of real light, will be coming to Earth, and will be working through you as you mature. Not everyone can handle and be aware of the position. Rebazar Tars has shown us so many things about you. That is why we love and care about you so much, said Paul. I don't always know what to say. There is so much that I am not aware of. It was hard for me to see myself, even in the light of all the experiences I have had. I often wondered how a man of the light feels. I wasn't aware of what you have been telling me, Paul. I am now realizing that it has been more of the adventure for me, and I haven't been paying attention to all the rest of what there is, I said, feeling rather small and insignificant. Paul and Mary began to laugh. Goldie, you are very special. Of course you can't see it all, but we will be here to remind you all the time, said Mary. Then they both laughed again. Paul got up from the table and said, Let's go, amigo. We must tend to the food that is growing for our future. We went outside into the beautiful day. After that little talk we had, it was so nice to be outside. I know what I am doing, I thought to myself. I loved the great outdoors and the real adventure of doing. That day we worked in the fields until late afternoon. It was a good feeling to be a part of a family like these people. We worked all day in the hot sun, picking and planting. Paul and Mary had put a lot of hard work into their farm, and by doing so, their harvest was wonderful. They had the best vegetables around. Some of the fishermen would come by and trade their fish for what Mary and Paul had too much of. The days passed, and after a while I began to miss my parents. I knew they weren't going to live on Earth forever. It had been about 2 months since I left, so I decided to go and see them on the Inner that evening. Before going to bed, Mary, Paul and I sat at the table after dinner talking. "How old are you, Paul?" I asked. "About 45 or so," he said, and then he laughed along with Mary. I couldn't help but laugh with them. "You are about the same age as my parents. Sometimes I wonder how long they will be around," I said. "They have a ways to go, because they want to see you publish that book of yours," he said. "It is exciting thinking about it, but doing it is another thing. I can't help but think about what the Dark Man told me, and how he would try and stop me. What do you two think?" I asked. Mary put her hand on my shoulder and said, "Whatever you will need to succeed will come your way. He is only part of the test. Besides, he can't outsmart the real guides. They know everything," she said. "I feel like I am always starting over, even with all that I know," I said. "We understand," said Mary. "I know exactly what you need, and that is a woman in your life to create some real issues, so you won't think about yourself so much." Then she really laughed with Paul. "You will have to meet my daughters, Goldie. They were so young when you were here with your parents, but now they are a lot bigger and more feisty," she said, as she was laughing about the hardest I had ever seen her. "Oh yes, Señor Goldie, they will love you, and knock some sense into you," said Paul, as he began to laugh as well. "Well, it all sounds good, I guess. Do they ever come home for a visit?" I asked. "Very rarely," said Mary. "They are both what you would term as career girls. One is a school teacher in the big town that is about half a day's ride from here, and the other one works in the general store, which I told you before, and you must have forgotten. They may come by while you are here, but who knows? I check on them on the inner sometimes, but they are usually very busy there too." I had no real concern to meet them, but it would be fun to see them again. I had no experience with women yet, so I didn't know what to think about them. "Are we picking tomorrow, Paul?" I asked. "Tomorrow I will be sleeping late and doing little things all day. We already have plenty to eat for weeks, so we can take it easy for now. Besides, you have to write," he said, smiling at me. "I'm going to turn in and take a trip to see my parents tonight. I'll let you know what happens." "So I will see you two tomorrow," I said as I went to my room. I paced back and forth for a while, looking over everything that Mary and Paul had told me. So much of it is what Rebazar Tars has been teaching me, but now it was starting to sink in even more. Suddenly I stopped pacing, and began to realize the reason for meeting the dark side. Could it be that it was motivating me to pay attention to what I was learning, and look at all of it more seriously? I was truly taking a look at a lot of things differently now. It was as though I was more motivated to pay attention to the details of everything that was going on. I really did like my new view and understanding. I spread myself out on the bed for a while, thinking about all that had happened in the last few days. I suddenly felt older, not wiser, just older. I began to realize how quickly our lives go here. I was already 24, but I felt as though I had lived several lifetimes already. Then I looked over the history of the earth and all the people that had come before me. It has been millions of lifetimes for me and others, and we are still here, trying to figure out our position. I began to realize how amazing the reality of this very moment is. All that has ever taken place, and all that ever will take place, is in this very moment, right now. What does all of this mean? I had no real plan as to what to do when I did finish the book. Everything seemed so up in the air. Here I was, the man that knew so much. But what did I really know? I know that life knows, and I am always learning. As I was half asleep, I kept going over in my mind the experience with the Dark Man. I was slowly beginning to understand why he was here, and what his function is. Rebazar gave me some lessons about the lesser reality that forms all the material worlds, but at the time I didn't understand, so I forgot about it. From what I know now, I have a better view of it and how it works. Looking over so many things that have been created on the earth, and all the ideas there are, I can see some of the ways that this dark nature works. He is very subtle, and it's plain to see that most people do not recognize even a small amount of what is taking place. I finally fell asleep, and went to my parents' house in the other worlds. Suddenly, I was walking up the road to their house. On the other side, everything looked a lot better. The trees were a lot greener, and the ground looked to be very rich with multicoloured soil. I came up to them as they were working around their house. Mum saw me first, and ran up to me, and gave me a big hug. Then Dad came over, and held me for a moment. "Goldie, we are so glad to see you. How are you?" Mum asked. "I'm great, Mum," I said. "I wanted to see you too. I really miss the both of you. Come and sit with us, son. Look, we have a new outdoor table," said Mum, as she put her arm around me. All of us walked over and sat down. "How is everything, son? Are you still writing?" asked Dad. "Everything is fine, and yes, I am writing almost every day. Life is giving me the lessons I need to continue to realize what I have been going through. I have gone through so much since I saw you last. The biggest surprise is my meeting with the dark side of life. That experience has put something in me that I cannot as yet figure out altogether," I said, looking at them and being so happy to be here. Both of them looked at me, and then Dad spoke. "We know what you are going through, son. We have had our own confrontations with it ourselves. Both of us have had many lessons from Rebazar Tars and the real guides over the years about the darkness that rules the lower realms. We knew that the time would come for you to know, and so we let things alone until you were ready," he said. "I don't think that I am ready, but it did happen. It has been an eye-opener for me. I now look at things differently, so much more so than I have before. I know that I will move past all of it, but I can also see that it has broken many of my own illusions. I have a greater compassion for those people who are unaware of what they are believing and who they are following," I said. "Don't be too concerned for those that want to stay with what they believe. They will have the opportunity in some future lifetime, and for now they are where they need to be at. It's simply part of your testing to become what life has waiting for you, son," said Mum. "I know that now, but it is still hard for me to accept. Even though this dark creature threatened me, I will still pursue what I must," I said. "Of course you will. You are heading in the right direction, Goldie. Rebazar Tars has said that you are going through what you have to, and you will be fine. He said that it will be hard at times, but you will make it through. We are now in the big school of learning, and have come through a lot of the lesser lessons," said Mum. "I know that all will be well with everything. I have a hard time seeing it for myself sometimes, and I won't give up," I said. "We are going to come and visit you on the earth very soon. How are Paul and Mary?" asked Mum. "They are great. I really like being with them. They are wonderful people, and I am so glad to know them. They said they miss the both of you. I have learned so much from them. They are very wise, and just like you, they have a lot of real experience. I think it's time to go, so please come and see me when you can," I said. "We will, son. See you soon," they said. After giving them both a hug, I stood up and walked off, and then found myself back in my room. It was still dark out, so I decided to get up and take a walk outside, because the house was rather hot. The cat was nowhere to be found. I think he was out prowling. I went quietly out the front door and into the front area. It was still warm outside also, so I went down toward the ocean. As I was walking down to the shoreline, I saw a figure standing by the water's edge. It was the dark creature again. I stopped abruptly, but then decided to continue on. I came within about 10 feet of him, and then stopped. He just stood there, and said nothing for the longest time, and then spoke.